Welcome. Thank you for joining us for Webinar 6 in a series of 6 webinars designed to support participants in Samsung's Solve for Tomorrow competition. My name's Julie Baker. I'm Head of Education here at Auckland's MOTAT and one of the judges for the competition. And with me today is Sarah Washbrooke from TENZ, who is also a competition judge. We'll start with the karakia.
Kia ora everybody. Māori ora ki a mātou, arahina mātou I a mātou mahi, ki mihia he huarahi mō te kaupapa o te mātauranga o Hangarau, a whina atu, a whina mai, te po e here nei I a mātou, hui e, tae ki e. The whakatauki for today's session. He hara takutoa, he takitahi, he tua takitini. My success should not be bestowed onto me alone, as it is not individual success, but a success of the collective.
We'll start with the junior category, years 7 to 10. Just a recap on the design thinking process. The topic of today's webinar is testing, trialling and evaluation. So as you can see, that is at the later 2 stages of the design thinking process, testing and implementing. So testing your prototype, why do we do this? Why don't we just stop when we've got a prototype? What's the idea of going through some testing? Quite simply, it is to check that your product is suitable for your stakeholders. It's fit for purpose, both functionally and aesthetically. So you need to revisit your design attributes that you started with, and both physical and functional. And here's some examples of how students have shown us that they have done that in their entries. You'll see Harrison Maxwell's Beautify the Berms in 2021. He went and he had a look at some of those attributes that people were identifying for him at the outset. So they were concerned about messy dying flowers, they were concerned about a fear of bees, pollen allergies, space for bins, etc., etc. So he went and he tested his prototype to make sure that he was answering all of those concerns and that the final outcome was going to not feature those for people who were going to be users. Brooklyn Johns and his Brooklyn's Nighttime Heroes project in 2021, he captured some information in his presentation around the material not being comfortable or attractive. He identified that that could be something that was softer and more colourful would be more appropriate. So he was evaluating his prototype against his original criteria and looking to see that his final prototype is actually fit for purpose. So there's lots of different ways you can test your prototype. One thing you might do is create a feedback form and send it out to your stakeholders and get them to give you some very clear information about how they feel about the product and how it works for them. You might look at using a survey. So Harrison Maxwell in Beautify the Berms 2021 very effectively created a survey and sent it out and got a lot of responses from a lot of people in a very short period of time. So a really good use of social media in that example. You might run focus groups, you might have workshops, you might do some observation. The beauty of doing an observation is that you are having your product tested in situ, generally in a real life situation, and you're able to gather really rich information because you're there observing people actually using it, and you might make some observations about its use that come through visually, which might not necessarily have been fed through to you in other forms like feedback forms or in surveys.
So what are we looking for with the final evaluation of your outcome? Really, it's your chance to explain and justify why you have created the outcome that you have. Is it purposeful? Does it do what it's intended? A really great way of that is by looking back at Brooklyn's project that he worked on for the Nighttime Hero. As you can see here, he worked through several iterations of prototypes before coming up with a final product. And through this stage, he actually connected his idea back to the design brief, the attributes and the specifications, analysing each one of those criteria as he went through the testing and trialling process. The final evaluation for the final product identifies that he's actually worked through all the issues and has highlighted that all the different aspects that he required for the product is actually now being successful. Other ways where you can record what you have been working through your evaluation are here too. Obviously, we accept video, so you can talk, you can write blogs, you can do different kinds of narrative. For example, from the foil blankets project in 2022, you can see here that they've actually gone through and explained how their product was changed and developed as they went through their process, identifying what maybe didn't go quite so right, but also identifying what's gone well. You can also create a logbook should you wish to. This can be in the form of a diary, for example, where you've identified how the idea has changed and why it's changed as you're going through the process itself. And this is the whole design process, not necessarily just the final presentation. You can see the example in the pigtail presentation logbook from 2022.
So what are the judges looking for in this testing and evaluation stage? The criteria that it comes into is feasibility and evaluation, which is worth 20% of your total mark. If we look at that a little bit more deeply, what we are looking for is substantial evidence that you have considered the product and its feasibility, and that you have evaluated the product. And it could be, as Sarah has just mentioned, in a raft of different formats, but we would expect that you had stakeholders and users involved in that process. As usual, there are a lot of resources available for you on the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow website. The webinars which are most useful for you in this particular topic is producing and trialling a prototype and evaluating a prototype.
Let's explore the senior category for the final evaluation. Does the outcome have potential to be successful? This is where you as senior students need to make sure that the final outcome that has been created has been tested and trialled. Usually being tested and trialled in the situation where it was intended. Or it can be in a simulated environment as long as it matches where the product is intended to be used. Consider gathering a range of stakeholder feedback, so it's not just the end user, because who knows, your product may be successful in the future and be used by a wider range of people. So the more feedback you can gather, the better it is for making sure the product will fit. Always link back to the design brief and your specifications and check whether each of those criteria are fit for purpose with the outcome that you have developed and produced. The final evaluation is not only a final evaluation for the actual outcome that you have created, but also the process that you're working through. Your information needs to come from your testing and trialling and what you have done as a designer or what you have done as designers through the process that you're working to. Remember in the final evaluation, once again, to always link back to the original need and the design brief. Plus, make sure that you have reflected on the stakeholder feedback that you've gathered.
So here are some examples of evaluations in previously submitted projects. You can see there in Mount Richmond Special School Kitchen Tools Reimagined project that they created a list of modifications to make based on the feedback from their stakeholders. Really clear evidence to the judges that this was a process they worked through and here is the outcome of that process. In Howick College Non-Invasive Diabetes Device 2022, they used some mathematical processes to make sure that the testing from their prototype correlated statistically with standardised testing. And you can see there they've presented it very clearly in graphical and tabulated form. And in Cameron Moore's Humane Trap for Wallabies, he basically gave us a sheet that just sort of gave us a summary of the community feedback that he had gathered, with some nice quotes there from people he talked to in the community. He worked very closely with other experts in that field as well. So the Bay of Plenty Regional Council for Information on Wallaby Behaviour was one of the things that one of the expert groups that he consulted.
So let's have a look at the rubric for this final part of the design process. Essentially, it comes under the question, can the outcome be implemented with current technology and resources, and does the outcome have potential to be successful? In here, through the testing and trialling process and through the evaluation, you are identifying whether the product is actually fit for purpose. Is it a feasible solution? Does it fulfill the need that is required? And does it need any potential improvements at the end? Because at the end of the day, many of our products may not be the final solution before they go into manufacture. We may need to improve. This slideshow is once again available to you, so you can have a look back at the content in the future should you wish to. You can scan the QR code in the top right hand corner, or you can have a look at or click on the link for the bit.ly link there to access the slides. All webinars are recorded and they are hosted on the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow website or on the TENZ YouTube channel. We'll finish with our karakia. Kia mato katoa, kua motu mato ia matu mahi, ia mato kopapa hoki, arahina mato ki kaue mato ia mato haipapa. Kia whakatapua mato ki nau kopapa me nā mea e whakapono. Mena kitia mai mato. Kia ora.